am humble enough to admit that I was naive at the beginning of 2021. I thought that with the vaccine rollout that it would be the panacea we all needed to put it behind us. But I think if anything, we've all learned a lesson in humility and understanding this is going to be around for quite some time. So figuring out how to manage not just Omicron, but the likely iterations that will follow, both in terms of keeping our crews safe, keeping our customers safe, and making sure that we manage that public health issue in a way that's the most responsible way to do so. So that's probably the first one, is sort of being cognizant of what COVID is and living in a way that is responsible. Another sort of challenge that we and our industry partners are all facing is the labor issue. I think it feels like we're all sort of dealing with what feels like a hemorrhaging of service personnel. So how do you deal with that? And we're still trying to figure out that puzzle too. This is not our puzzle to figure out, and we're trying to see what we can do to become an employer of choice. What can we do to create an environment that maintains the energy level that's high, as well as the commitment to sort of come to work in a way that makes our folks feel good, makes us feel good, obviously our customers as well. And lastly, it's inflation. And I'm not an economist by any measure, but clearly I can see how the rising inflation rates are impacting everyone's ability to spend money in a way that makes sense for their home. We're watching it too. Obviously, it's an issue that doesn't just affect us; it affects our customers and our suppliers as well across the line. So we had supply chain issues to begin with, dealing with COVID, but also now when you add the pressure of inflation, what that means across the line, and obviously at the end of the day, what that means for our consumers when they come into our stores. We're just trying to get creative around that. So it's probably a long way of answering your question, which probably isn't what you wanted, but we have a trifecta of issues. The big idea is to jump out ahead of all of them, try to figure out how to be responsible with each one, and then hopefully maintain some of the momentum that we caught in 2021 in terms of our sales, because it was a pretty good year sales-wise.
How did you come to the restaurant industry from your background in franchise law?
So the restaurant industry was always one that was attractive to me. So the quick answer is I have an uncle by marriage. My aunt's married to this really colorful Italian guy named Roberto Massari. He had this Italian restaurant here in our neighborhood that I loved going to. And I love the satisfaction that he had when he ran it with his best friend. So even as a kid, it was always in my head the idea of what restaurant ownership looked like and felt like. So after law school, I'm from Charlotte, and Charlotte's a big banking city. I went back there after law school, did all corporate finance work for, I guess, half a decade or so. But I always had the itch to somehow figure out how to get into the restaurant space. And then I learned about corporate franchising. It seemed to be a dotted line to an industry that I've always wanted to get involved in. So I moved from Charlotte to Washington, D.C., ended up working for a firm called DLA Piper, which they focus on a lot of industries, but the corporate franchise team there was pretty robust. I dove right in, learned as much as possible, and started working with some really infectious personalities. Infectious meaning like when you're working with a franchisor, inherently you're working with somebody who is a bit of a rogue agent. They figured, they didn't want to do it 9 to 5. They have this idea, they want to scale up. And so you have this bench of folks who are very talented, very smart. They think a bit differently too. And that's a pretty cool client mix to sort of come across. Being from the DC area, I also got a chance to meet the Five Guys, or the dad in the Five Guys. Got to get involved with their business pretty early on, and it wasn't long before the respect was mutual, and I was able to see an opportunity to jump full time with them, and I've never looked back ever since. So it's been a good one.
You were instrumental in setting up the international office for Five Guys in the Netherlands.
That's right. Yeah.
What are the challenges for that international expansion, and especially from a legal franchising perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we started the international office almost a bit. So we started going international in 2016 with a joint venture partner who was a big fan of the brand. It was based out of London. So we did that deal while still headquartered here, obviously in the DC area. And it was going quite well to the point where we started getting inquiries across the globe. And it became clear that we needed a whole new team that could focus strictly on international work. So as the joint venture in the UK rolled out, we started to get inquiries in the Middle East, and from there the rest of Europe and now Asia. And so we built a core team that sits in our Amsterdam office. It supports all lines of business for our international franchisees. And in terms of challenges, it's every new country is a whole new host of regulations, a whole new host of local issues, and you sort of learn something every single time you get into a whole new market. So knock on wood, we've been fortunate that every market where we've planted our flag, it's been a good experience. Ironically enough, for a company like ours that doesn't advertise, we have no commercials, no promotions, no anything. But even without that, with that being part of our ethos, when we go to a brand new country, and most recently, I think it was Australia, we go in there and the lines out at the door. I guess people just know who we are, and it's been a pretty cool experience to see how that can grow organically.
What do you see as the biggest opportunities in the restaurant space the next year, 5 years down the road?
I think we're all learning about it. If you had asked me that question a year ago, prior to COVID, or make us 2 years ago, wow, I think you believe it's already been
Yeah.
2 years of COVID. Wow. So we were very reticent to even consider delivery. I mean, we know our product well enough to know that it doesn't travel well. It's a great burger and fries when it's fresh off the grill or fresh out of the fryer. But once you put it in the bag and you keep it sealed for a few minutes, the integrity of that, especially the fries, tends to get compromised. So we were very much against delivery when it first started taking hold in terms of the delivery apps. Thankfully, we got over that prior to COVID and invested heavily in technology and the partnerships with all of the third party apps. And I think the consumer is smarter than we maybe gave credit for. I think they know full well what a burger tastes like off the grill, and they also know what it tastes like when it's being delivered. And so the opportunity for us has been this incremental growth through the delivery channel. But by and large, the customers that we gained during the shutdown via delivery are here to stay. Right? I think as the stores open back up, we regained our market share in terms of in-store traffic, and now you have this sort of more robust version of delivery that's sort of maintaining as a different channel of service and revenue. And it's been great for us to sort of augment the two to keep ourselves there and relevant. So yeah, an opportunity space for us is to continue to try to service both of those. And then uniquely with us, we're still very much young in the international space. I think Asia has been very, very kind to us. I think there's plenty of opportunity for new partners, new countries, new flag posts across the globe, and we're going to keep pushing.
What do you see of those three big areas of challenges? Which one do you think Five Guys has the most innovative solutions to?
Great question. So, of the three, we really can't control inflation, and we really can't control COVID. And while we can't control the labor shortage or the issues we're facing around labor, we can be proactive about what we're looking at. I think again, the idea that our largest franchisee is looking to create opportunities of healthcare for all of his employees. That's just one branch of it. What other ways can we make ourselves an employer of choice? We have the founders of Five Guys are very humble. They don't really speak about all the things we do for our employees. And knowing them, they're going to be very quiet about all these initiatives we're going to keep doing to make our team members, our crew folks, the guys who show up, irrespective of issues like COVID and other reasons to maybe stay home, our crew still shows up. They still show up with a lot of energy. How can we reward them for that? I think there's going to be a lot of initiative spent around making sure our crew feels good feel safe and they want to keep the Five Guys hat on as they continue on.
And for you personally, what's the most exciting thing about the business right now?
Exciting thing. I'd say continue our bench of fantastic partners. We're excited about some conversations we're having with folks who are looking to take Five Guys into South Korea, to Japan, to these different markets that I just never expected a small hometown company to sort of be able to do that so quickly. And so, yeah, now obviously it's not a quick snap of your fingers in your brand new country. I want to make sure I'm giving, due respect to the amount of effort that's being undertaken by our supply chain team and the rest of the folks who have to go in and spend so much time and manpower to make sure that when we do show up in these brand new markets, that the folks who enjoy a Five Guys burger are able to have the exact same experience there as they do back here in DC.